Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Daily BizLink. Jane Cebrynski is back for today's conversation on defining your words to define your life. Jane, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good morning.
Good
So,
morning.
of course, ritual and routine. Give me that 10 moment.
Oh, my Big 10 moment, which I'm so excited about, is I just booked my flight to go and visit my sister and my brand new baby niece. It's long overdue due to COVID. We weren't able to be there for the actual birth, so really
Right.
getting out there to go and see her.
Oh, you're going to have so many 10 moments from that experience. I can't wait. So, I'll just remind you to be really intentional about how can you make every moment from the time you leave till the time you get back a 10 moment for you.
That's right. Well, and I'm trying to earn the title of Funty, the fun aunt. So I have to say that sooner than later.
Oh, well, you're gonna do really well in that arena, no doubt. That's awesome. I haven't heard that term before. I should make that mine as well.
Well, the good news is I think it's heading in the right direction. My sister actually bought me the shirt that says Funty, so I think she's already on board with the concept.
Now there's a little competition happening in the family.
Well,
That actually speaks right into our conversation about defining words, right? Because it's like, well, what does the fun auntie mean? And your definition of fun auntie might be very different than your sister's or even your niece as she grows up. So that's why it's really important that we work on defining words to better clarify and define our life.
totally agree. You can hear my dog whining in the background. One of the joys of working from home. But no, I completely agree. And this does definitely resonates because this is something that has come up, just in some of my conversations with some of my friends. How often do we hear from our peers or friends or family members about how they kind of make these judgmental statements saying, oh, I just can't believe they're doing this, or that just seems so silly. However, because of the conversations that we've had around this, I really reframe it as, well, that's their definition of success or of significance. So I can't judge them for the choices that they've made. However, I can say that that does or it does not work for me personally. So this has been a tremendous tool for me and helped me to reframe my mindset. So Jane, I'm excited that you're sharing a little bit more on this topic today.
We always seem to be right on pitch with each other. Well, so what I found is we speak in kind of those broad generalized terms. So it might be, I want to be successful in my career. I want to have a happy marriage. I want to get in better shape. All of these different things. And until we begin to really, now I can respond when you say that based on what my definition is. And so it's really important, especially, when I'm coaching individuals, I'm constantly asking, well, define that for me. And oftentimes I'll get a look of bewilderment and surprise because we don't really necessarily spend really intentional time defining it. And so when I ask those questions, my definition is going to be completely different than yours. And oftentimes, I know we're thinking about it, but until we actually kind of write it down, and we spend a lot of time doing that. And then what we can do is go, okay, based on my definition, do my actions support that? Or what do my actions need to look like and be like if that's what my true definition is?
And this even reminds me, I often have conversations with individuals about, professional development and growth and talking about where they want to go within their careers. And it's interesting to hear these stories because individuals' definition of success is completely different. Some people are totally okay with being in one of those support roles. Other individuals want to grow up and lead the organization. And so I think it is kind of fascinating to see how we all define it a little bit differently.
Well, and in hearing that, I would also say that sometimes it's based on our strengths. We're going to have different strengths. And so being a support role may be the best place for you to be in. And it doesn't mean you're less than or you're not trying to achieve more. It might just be feeding into your strengths. And we know that when we're operating in that modem, we're happier. And so what I love is because we can really start to break it down and continue to peel away and get more clarification. So sometimes, for example, if I'm working with, somebody who's going through a divorce transition, it might be, okay, what's your definition of being a single mom? what does that look like for you? And then what is your definition of being an ex-spouse? And what is really awesome about that is when you take the time to really think about, okay, what does it mean for me? How do I want to show up? How do I want to respond? How do I want to react? Then it's a matter of, okay, what are the tools and the skills that I need in order to achieve that? What do my actions need to look like? So it becomes really, really purposeful. And the other thing too is it keeps us then from responding and reacting and judging someone else, because we all have different definitions. And I think that that's super important.
I completely agree. And as we're entering Q4, we're all looking at creating our business plans for this next year and reassessing what we want 2021 to look like. I feel like many of us are like, well, 2020 was kind of a lost year because so many curveballs were thrown in there. So as we're looking to define what success will look like in 2021 and creating those business plans, this would be a fantastic exercise to run through and really write down those definitions. So Jane, what would be your challenge of the week? What do you want our audience to walk away with and think about over the next couple of days?
So I would encourage everyone, not only start with the broad, what if you're talking about success in your professional career or significance, we call that in your personal life. Really start to think about what does that look like? And then look at the words that you put down and chose and ask yourself the question, can those be defined even more fully? So if I put down, I want to have a happy marriage, okay, define happy. What does that look like, sound like, feel like? If I say I want to be a success in my career, okay, is that just based on money, or are there culture things? Are there self-development things? Are there growth things? What are there leadership? What are the qualities? And then, like, let's say it's leadership, something like that. Again, still broad, define leadership. What does that mean to you? And then be willing to share that. Because again, if you're working with a partner or a coworker, they're going to respond to you based on their definition. And I love when these conversations start to happen and you get interrupted by your friends because they assume this is like what you want to know, because again, they're responding based on their definition. So they give advice, they tell you what you should do based on their definition, not necessarily yours.
And the only other challenge I would throw in there as you're looking at writing these individual things down is making sure that they're SMART goals. Because if they're specific, if they're measurable, achievable, relevant, or time-bound, you're far more likely to actually achieve them and make things happen, or even make those changes within your life to help get to that point where you're reaching your definition of success or significance.
Yeah, and I would tell you to stat it up. And if it's an 8, 9, or a 10, the likelihood of you making commitments and actions to change around it to achieve it is much greater. So just make sure that it's something that matters to you, and try to stay away from should mountain, which is what everyone says you should be doing and thinking and feeling. And really, again, mastery of self.
Awesome. Jane, thanks again for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me, Lindsay. Have an awesome weekend. Be the fun tea.